Hey guys, this is Neil with Catalyst Machineworks. I'm going to do a assembly video for our new Shocker tank. Okay, this is the Freestyle version, the bigger, fatter, stronger brother of the Shocker Ultralight. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Here we go, baby. I'm excited. Are you excited? I don't think you're as excited as I am. Maybe I've had too much coffee. Hard to say. Anyways, okay, this is what's going to come with. Spread before you here. All right, we got all the carbon components. Got a couple straps, some 3D parts, and a big bag of fasteners that you got to sort through. Okay, so like what I like to do here is get a baby bowl. These come with a baby. If you don't have a baby, you need to go get a baby. If it doesn't come with a bowl, you need to make sure and ask for a bowl with your baby. Very important for FPV building. So let's put our fasteners in the baby bowl. All right, there we go. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so I want to point out that this is not going to be a full build where I go and install all the electronics and do all that jazz. This is basically telling you how the frame goes together. I'm going to assume that you have the ability to build one of these things. You've done it before. If you haven't done it before, there's lots of help out there. You can go to our Facebook page. We've got a group out there. And then you can also contact us directly at info@catalystmachineworks.com or support@catalystmachineworks.com. There's also this thing called YouTube, and there's Joshua Bardwell's of the world. They can all help you if this is your first build. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use my own personal Shocker tank as a reference when we go through the build. Now, I want to point out that this is the prototype version, but it is close enough to the production that we can use it as a reference. And I will point out the differences so you don't get confused when I'm using this as a reference through this video. I also want to point out, just imagine that the motors are all the same. I'm in the process of changing from these drag race motors over to a more typical freestyle motor. The first step with this monster should always be to flip her upside down like this. Okay, so this is the belly. This thing is built similar to the Oh My God remix. Okay, so everything is sort of upside down. So there's the belly, and you want to put your all-in-one ESC in right here, and then go ahead and install the arms. Install this, which is called the cross brace. Install the front brace, okay, install all the arms, and then put your motors on, and then wire the motors to the ESC, okay. Now, I do want to point out that you can see how this front brace works, okay. So we've got M3 by 14 millimeter screws here, and then we've got an aluminum washer that goes through that. Then we've got M3 by 8 millimeter, and these are stainless steel, and so they go everywhere else, okay? So you got your blue long screws up here, 14 millimeter, and then M3 by 8 millimeter here and here, and then also in the back to join your rear motors to the rear arms. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do is take the components that we're going to be using for this step. Okay, so we got this top plate. We got the cross brace. You can see it's got 10 of these little press nuts pressed into it. We got your front arms. They are shorter. Got your rear arms. They're longer. Okay, we've got a front brace. We'll take all this stuff and move it out of the way. All right, let's find the screws. All right, so I've got all the fasteners that we're going to be using. Okay, these are M3 by 12 millimeter. There are 8 of them. We've got the M3 by 14 millimeter I was describing before, and then the aluminum washers, there's 4 of those and 4 of these. All right, then we've got 6 of these M3 by 8 millimeter stainless. So let's go ahead and get these pieces here. What we're going to do is make sure and flip this guy in this orientation. You can see these countersinks right here. You're going to need those to be in this direction, okay, opposite the ESC. All right, so we're going to flip this over and go ahead. Yeah, we got the front arms installed here. And we'll go ahead and install the rear. Okay, so we've got the rear arms installed. There we have it. Now, I spoke too soon. I'm actually going to need these front plates to put the front brace on. So how this thing is going to work is this guy is going to go on the bottom, and this and this sandwich this. Okay, so you want to go ahead and install this guy like so. Get your other one and install him like that. Okay, then this front brace is going to go in like this. Okay, and the screws go through the carbon of the front brace, the arm, and then into the motor. Now, I've got some old motors here. I'm just going to use as a prop, essentially, to show you how this thing works. All right, so we're going to take one of the washers here and a screw, run this through, and then into the motor. Okay, you can see we've got the blue screws installed. We've got the motors installed here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the screws in through the motor. There we go. That's how that's going to look right there. Okay, now I'm not going to install some motors on the rear arms. It's pretty self-explanatory. You know, use 4 of these to install the motors on the rear. We'll move on to the next step. All right, this next portion of the build is going to cover a lot of subjects. Okay, I said that I wasn't going to go through electronics installation, but I guess we'll just say I'm not going to go through an exhaustive procedure of the electronics installation, just the bits and pieces you absolutely need to know. So I've got to bring these in here. What we're going to do is talk about the stack, and we've provided some fasteners in here that I think are ideal for putting your stack in. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. But what they are, these are these steel screws. They're M3 button head. I think they're 20 millimeter long. Okay, and then we've got all your standoffs you need. So yeah, and what else do we have for you? We've got some steel nylock nuts that you can use to go ahead and compress down and lock in the stack. So let's go ahead and show you how that works. I grabbed some old components out of my nerd box. Okay, we've got an old ESC here. I think this is a, what is this? I think that's a Speedix. Okay, we got all-in-one Speedix. Right, we've got a NAS 32. Okay, so I'm going to show you this as a reference to install. Whoa, hold up. Stop the presses. What's that? Guys, you know what this is? This is an ancient flight controller from the early days of FPV. Over 5 years ago, this was popular. And really the only thing that we had. These, not many of you have seen these. These are called pins. Pins. Obviously we don't use these anymore. But yeah, so that's what us old guys used to use. Let's get that out of there, man. That's too old. Was 5 years in regular human years. FPV 5 years, what does that equal, like 50 years in regular human years? We're gonna use this. This is an old hobby wing. I think that'll fit. So here we go. Put your screws in. All right, we're gonna go ahead and put these standoffs in right here. And you can use nylon hardware if you want, but since this is a tank, why not go ahead and get your stack nice and strong. You've got some extra resilience to crashing, even on your electronic stack.
The early days of FPV. Over 5 years ago, we used to use pins on our flight controller.
All right, there we go. Go ahead and put our ESC in here. Okay, and of course you can decide which way you want to orient this thing. Some people like to put the pigtail out the back, like we did. So you can see here what we did. Got the pigtail out the back, but then the wires for the battery pigtail runs up through the side here. Okay, now if you're going to do this, I suggest to take the carbon and take a file, and all of the carbon edges that may come into contact with this, make sure to file those down and round the edges. Super important. And you don't have to run it through here if you don't want. You can figure out where you want to do it. That's just how I did it, and so that's how I suggest to do it. So we've got the ESC in. Now we're going to go ahead and put these other standoffs to hold it in place. There we go. Okay, so at this point, it's a good idea to put in your air unit. Now I don't have an air unit to show you, but I'll make it clear to you. So this component here, this 3D printed piece of plastic, what you want to do is put double-sided stick tape on this surface, okay? And then this is joined, this is joined to the frame, to the top plate, by way of these screws. We've got self-tapping screws, there's 4 of them. They're number 2 by 1/4 inch long stainless steel screws. So what you want to do is take this component here, make sure that this part, this little extrusion, is situated underneath the cross brace. So sort of wedge it in there and push this thing in place such that the holes in this 3D part line up with these holes here. And then take your screws, let's get these out of the way, take your screws and screw them into place. Be careful not to over tighten this. You don't need to over tighten it. This is relatively soft plastic. They just need to be snug.
There we go. Make sure that tightens down just a little bit more. There we go.
All right. There we have it. Okay, so here is our reference. You can see I've got the air unit installed here, so it is double-side stick taped to this, right? We've got the wires, the black wires that plug in to the back of the air unit here, running underneath the air unit. So what we've done is we've taken 2 strips of double-sided stick tape and put it on either side, creating a channel that those wires can then run through here and then plug into the flight controller. This flight controller happens to be a Holy Bro F7, and it's a direct plug-in, which is really nice for an air unit for a DJI system like this, okay? And so then the wire is running from the air unit up to the camera that is running between the ESC and the flight controller, okay? Now, we've given you some extra screws here. These are M2 by 6mm stainless socket head screws. You want to use these to join the camera to these plates. You can't use the screws that come with the air unit because this plate is so thick that they won't reach. Right? So you want to use those. You can see how this is installed. It's pretty self-explanatory. What you can do is you can loosen these and it allows you to change the angle on the camera quite easily. All right, so that's how that works. Now, let's go ahead and imagine that we are installing the flight controller. Just for shits and giggles, we'll spin it around that way. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put on the...
Of course, you don't have to use these if you don't want. You can use whatever you'd like. We just provide these here in case you do.
I'm just putting them on hand tight right now just to show you how they go on, but of course you're going to want to get a tool and tighten these down properly. All right, that's how it's going to look. So you got a nice strong stack. Be hard pressed to damage that in a crash. One other thing I just remembered before we go on to the next step is if you have a Vista, okay, this thing is going to accept both the air unit and the Caddx Vista. If you're going to install the Vista, it's pretty simple. It really just works the same way. You're just going to use a smaller pad of double-sided stick tape, put your Vista stack there, and there you have it. Now, this machine, this frame, comes with the 3D component that you need to install the antennas for the air unit. It does not come with this. This is the 3D component that you need for the Vista. This was originally designed for our ultralight version, but it fits this just fine. So you can find this in the spare parts section of our website. If you want to install a Vista, you're going to need to get one of these. All right, so what we're going to do now is install the cage components, the fuselage cage. Okay, we're going to start with these components here in the rear. Okay, so these rear cage plates. What we're going to need are the plates themselves and some screws. We've got M3 by 12mm. We've got a couple of nylock steel nuts, and then we have some curved M3 washers. And I'll show you why we're using curved washers here in a moment. So this part of the build can be a little bit tricky. You might cuss at me a bit, but I don't really care because this is the best way to do it, okay? In my opinion, to join these components together. So we have to use this kind of a little bit of a tricky scenario to install it. But once you get it installed, it's right as rain. So what you have to do is take your screw and pass it through here, okay? Then also get your curved washer and make sure that this thing is curved such that it's sort of cupping or cradling this area here. So you want this curve to sort of grab the carbon fiber and hold it in place and centralize it. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll put this down for now. I will get a little tool. Okay, we're going to hold this guy like this. this thing back together. Oops. There we go, got it through there. Now, once you've got the screw through and you've got the washer in place and the direction of the concave area of the washer is towards the right direction, you can position this with your fingers, and there you go. See how easy that is? You're gonna say, screw you, Neil. This is not easy at all. You made it look easy, but I hate you, and I'm gonna send you an email and tell you that. All right, so there we go. We'll go ahead and tighten this guy down. Good deal. All right. How that looks. Well, now we'll do the other side. Hold on to this guy. Get my nut. That is what she said. And position it in place. Just like that. There you go. See how easy that is, guys? It's not hard. Make sure that this screw is, or that this washer is facing, there it is, facing the right way. Slowly put it together. There we go. So that's the important part, right? So you've got this carbon fiber that's sitting here, and you've got a washer that you want to grab the carbon fiber like this. So the washer is going to try and sort of move on you. So be careful when you're screwing it down that the washer is oriented correctly, so if it turns this way, you're just going to spin it out and it's going to just flatten it. And now it's not really doing the best job that it can. So make sure that it's sitting on the carbon and sort of holding it in place just like that. Okay, so those are in place. All right, so what we're going to do is install these pieces here, this standoff, and these screws. Okay, so I've got them here. These are M3 by 12 millimeter socket screws. Now, this component, you got to notice that it's not symmetric, it's asymmetric. And you can see that it's different on one end to the other. So the way that this guy installs is that this side that looks like this goes towards the front. And it goes such that it's sitting on the outside. Okay, so you got these on the inside, this is on the outside. So we're going to do it like that. So you can see what's a really neat feature of this frame is that these can be rotated and give complete access to the entire stack very, very quickly out in the field. Pretty neat. Okay, so the next step, We're going to take these two. Okay, I called them the cage locks. These are some 3D printed nylon parts. Okay, we've got those. We want to get a couple of these aluminum washers. And then we've got some M3 by 16 millimeter screws. Blue steel. And a standoff. So how this works is, let me get this here. You can see this is positioned right here in this corner, and then you've got your M3 by 16 millimeter screw here. Oh, and we need blue M3 by 8 millimeter as well to join this 3D part to the cross brace. Okay, you can see there's a captive nut right there that it's going to be running that screw in through. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this all into position. We will rotate these down like that. All right, we're going to get our screw, get the 3D printed part, and we will pop him into place like this. Right. Whoa! Hold up! Let's run this like this. Okay, we've got that a little bit snug, and then we'll take our M3 by 8 millimeter and run him in through here. Make sure we catch that little press nut in there. Alright guys, that's what that's going to look like once it's all installed. And then what this is doing is essentially locking this in place so it doesn't move around. Nice, sturdy, rigid assembly. Right, the next thing we're going to do is take a couple more standoffs here and some of these M3 by 8 millimeter blue screws from our baby bowl and position these in the front. These span the distance between the two front plates and provide a location that you can mount things like GoPro mounts, like a GoPro 9 mount for instance. Ain't she a beaut? All right, I'll show you how that goes on a little bit later. Even if you are not going to plan to use a GoPro or any accessories up here, you need to use these standoffs because they're further improving the durability of the frame as a whole, providing protection for the camera, and a few other things that they're important for. go. What it looks like once it's all together there in the front. All right, this next portion, there's a good bit going on here. A lot to talk about actually. So it has to do with this rear section and antenna mounting and accessory mounting. Okay, so the frame comes with this component. This is a little 3D printed piece of TPU that's designed to hold the stock antenna for the air unit. All right, now if you're not using an air unit, if you're not using HD, DJI, well, you can use analog. I've come up with an antenna that accepts an SMA for standard analog type FPV system. I have not put it on the website. I'm going to put it on there shortly. Hopefully get to that in a couple days. So you guys who still run analog can do so with this frame. All right, so the way that this thing works is there's a standoff right here in the back, and all of the accessories in the rear join to this standoff. Okay, and so this is kind of like the centerpiece of the accessory system, right? So you put this in there, and if you have extra stuff, like let's say that you want to join, you know, a GPS to this system, and you also want to join Crossfire. Well, we have this mount that does Crossfire and GPS. So you put your GPS here, you put your Crossfire here, or we've got just Crossfire, like you see that I have mounted in here. And the way that these things work is these link together. Okay, so this is positioned in place, and then this links to it, and there's these little features in here, and you'll figure out how it works, and these things link together. So pretty cool. You can put different accessories in here quite easily. So I'm going to go ahead and install this guy. So what I'll do is take the little standoff here, knurl standoff, and I'll press it through this component. Okay, I want to center this. The standoff is going to peek out on either side. Okay, you see that? And the way that these things join together is that this, let me just do it for you here. This goes on this side. Let me see, make sure I get this right. Okay, so this is going like this. Right. That's going like that. Okay. And then this guy come in here like this, and he joins from this side. Sort of link him like that. And then this joins to this side. And then, so these features link together, just like that. All right. So for the purposes of this, I'll go ahead and leave these guys linked together, and we'll install them. So go ahead and put this in here. Line this up. Okay. And what you want to do is you're going to have 2 more M3 by 8mm screws to go through here. Now, you'll notice that this can tend to want to rotate on you. So what we've got are some holes here that index these components together with the frame so they don't rotate. So we've got some number 2 by 7/16 self-tapping screws. So let me get my Phillips head back out, and we're going to install those. They go through here and then into this TPU component like this. Just get them snug. You don't need to over tighten. Oh Lord. There we go. And there you have it. That's how that goes. Okay, and so the way that this thing works is you lay your air unit antennas through here, okay, and then you've got these, it's slit open, so you can open this up, lay them in there, and then you use zip ties. You can see this because it's all black, but you've got zip ties here and here, there and there. So there's 4 zip ties holding this thing around the antenna. Okay, and you can sort of take your antenna and you can push them this way or pull them that way and just tinker with it until you get them situated the way that you like it, right? And then you can position these how you like it. And that's how that works. Okay, so that pretty much sums up how the frame itself goes together. All right, it's really quite easy to build. This is not a difficult assembly. All right, I'm going to talk about some of the accessories that we have available for purchase on our website. Some of the most important, of course, are the camera mounts. And so this is a GoPro 9 camera mount that I just came up with. We are going to have this available very, very shortly on our website for not only the Shocker tank, but also the Banggood line of frames, the America, universal mounts, all different types of things will be there available for purchase. And so if you want to join something like this to the frame, what you want to do is you want to take these off. Okay, so we're going to take these off. And I'm going to install this one into this bore here. Okay, it's going to be tight, so you're going to probably want to take some sort of a tool and put it in the rest of the way. Make sure it's centered in there. The next thing that I want to do is get the angle bar. Okay, so the camera mounts are going to come with an angle bar. Here it is here. You can see it's 30 degrees, right? We've got different angles. Those are going to be optional accessories. You can run 30 because that's what it comes with. If you want something smaller or larger, you're going to have to go buy the angle bar to make that happen. So how this thing works is you want to take the bore on the bottom of it and press the other standoff into that. Okay. Now we are going to run a very long screw through here, through this angle bar, and then into a little press nut that I'm going to install into here. Okay, here is the little press nut I was talking about. This is a brass press nut. We're going to put it in there like that. There we go. Now, take the standoff position, or I'm sorry, the angle bar, position it in place, take this really long screw that's going to come with the camera, and we'll run it in there like that. Right. This is how this is going to work. Now, what we're going to do is take this guy, go ahead and position it in place where the standoffs originally were located. Okay, so that's how the GoPro mounts work there. You can see that there's features on this angle bar that help to locate it and keep it from rotating. So it's sort of conforming to the curve here, and it stops it from wanting to rotate so that you keep a constant angle. Even after you crash, it's going to come back and sort of pop right back into place. So that's how that works. Now we also provide on the website an optional accessory here that's a rear brace. Okay, the way that the rear brace is installed is it's installed on top. You lay it down on top of this, okay? And then your motors go on top of the rear brace. And so what you want to do is just sort of lay it down here, and then these screws are going to have to come out and they'll go through here. And if I'm not mistaken, you can use the same screws. They're M3 by 12 mil. And they will still work because we've got a countersink and it ends up working out just fine. Now this accessory, this rear brace, comes with the screws that you need to install your motor. I believe they're M3 by 14 millimeter times 8. Okay, so that's how that works. Now another accessory that I have not finished design on yet, but I do want to explain to you guys, this is going to be available for purchase soon, is an undercarriage. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's basically a 3D printed sort of component that's sectioned into 3 different pieces. The first piece is going to be sitting here on the front and is going to protect the carbon here and then wrap around the front and then also protect the front brace and then protect a bit of the side plate. So it's going to sort of protect all of this area here. Then we're going to have another component that covers all of this, protects all of this, and then another component that covers all of that and protects all of that. It'll be available in different colors, so that'll be available soon on your website, on the website. Now, I'm also considering a whole slew of other accessories. I just need time to actually design them in CAD. You know, there's only so much time in the day. Oh, one other thing I just realized that I missed is the Velcro straps, right? Comes with a couple Velcro straps. Obviously, they're going to go through this portion here, and then you can wrap that around your battery in the front. And then also, this component here that the air unit is mounted to creates an opening for your rear Velcro strap. Okay, and you can position it how you want it and help to hold the battery in place. Okay, well, I think that pretty much sums it up. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. If you have any questions, you need any help on this build, feel free to reach out to us at support@catalystmachineworks.com or info@catalystmachineworks.com. Okay, until next time, my FPV friends, happy flying.